I think a question needs to be had is that does Dave Chappelle have a particular fixation or reason that he believes needs to have a fixation with the LGBTQ community? I mean, he does say in the sketch that this is the last time I'm talking about y'all. So the question becomes, why did you feel the need to talk about quote unquote y'all being the LGBTQ community in the first place? And, as a community. So what I'm saying is that he sets up a dialogue in the special where this particular community, if you want to call them a community, is a group of people he wants to address. So he obviously feels a specific reason why that is. Now, the reason why that is, we can ascertain, or maybe Chris can let us in as well. But I have my personal opinions based on what he said in his prior specials. But I would like us to at least acknowledge that he makes it clear that he wants to address this specific community in this special. Am
Yeah.
I off? Am I off on that, or do you guys agree?
I think he's addressing a specific sect of that community. I think what people are really missing in the nuance is that he's talking to the white LGBT community. He is not speaking to the LGBT community that is part of our race. And I'm mostly because, and I brought up this point several times when people bring up that there are black and they're black and brown, what LGBT people. What I always bring up is, well, you always put the fact that they're black and brown first, so you can't ignore that. So what I think it comes to, him addressing it. It's like he doesn't have social media, he doesn't write blogs, he doesn't have all these things. He doesn't come out and speak publicly a lot. You know what I mean? So when he does these specials, this is his way of addressing everything that has been said over the past 4 years. You know what I mean? This is him addressing everything that happened from the last special. And as far as social commentary, if you look at what he did with 846, that was not comedy. That was him literally speaking to America from the mindset of a black man who's the same age as George Floyd. You know what I mean? And I think you have to understand Dave is definitely doing social commentary. If and I'm not this, and I can't speak for Dave as to why he's doing it. That's his business. I don't know. What I do know is these are the issues he's addressing because these are the issues that have been addressed towards him. When you have a million people writing think pieces about it over the last few years, yeah, you don't go out on. He doesn't write a blog back. He doesn't go on social media and address them. This is his point to address them. So that may be reasoning why he's doing it. And I know for a fact that Dave is not out to hurt anybody, but at the end of the day, what I know from the discussion and what I've seen is that it's really kind of a discussion where he's asking the world to look at the struggles of all black people. Because, while there are certain groups that we all fall into outside of our blackness, at the end of the day, blackness is what connects us all. So I don't know.
Now, that's I'm glad you said that because that's the point that really was because I write about and I'm a student of black politics. The thing that I found particularly interesting and somewhat sketchy about what Chappelle was doing was that he was leveraging the capacity to deem himself a representative of all of black community and all of the black community and set this marker down and say LGBT community. I, as a black man speaking on behalf of the black community, we need to address this problem. And the question I was saying is that who gave Dave Chappelle the authority to
Mm.
believe that he could do that? Number one. And number two, even though I understand he may be positioning the argument as if he's talking to the white LGBTQ community, I'm not absolutely sure he makes that abundantly clear in his framing. He
Mm.
does say that I've never had a problem with the LGBTQ community. I've had a problem with white people. And he does proceed to give anecdotes of the way he finds it problematic that particularly racist white men, in his according to his narrative, can become trans in the way he frames it, and then believe that they have some kind of positioning as an oppressed group. But at the same time, I never hear in the series any addressing of the particular way in which black LGBTQ people may feel that they have a way in which they connect with the issues of this LGBTQ community. And I'm not qualified to speak on that community as well. But don't is it possible that he might be erasing the narrative or the concerns of black LGBTQ folk? Either one of you or both of you jump in. What do you think, Chris?
Um, I think that's very valid. I think that's very true. He could, I think what happens is, as a comedian, we kind of speak with this assumption, who we're talking to. And I think with Dave, over the years of his career, you've seen the topic of what has mostly been his comedy, which is racism, which is going at white people. And so I think what he might be going on is the assumption. Again, I don't know because I can't speak for Dave. All I can do is say what I feel is that, he may be coming from the assumption that he's talking to white gay people. And unfortunately, you're right. And the problem with this is that the black LGBTQ community does get pushed to the side and does have their needs kind of pushed away because there are a lot of and I'm just gonna say it, there are a lot of black people who are homophobic and who aren't really on board with black LGBTQIA people. So it boils down to a point of like, yeah, those people can definitely latch on and use his messaging to push an agenda that will further stifle the movement of the black LGBTQ community in America as they try to find a place in the white LGBT community because definitely it's complicated. You know what I mean? To be black in America, to be a black citizen in a country where your race disqualifies you from a lot of things, but then you also have all these other aspects of life that you fall into. Where you're gay, now you have racism and homophobia, where you go out into the world and you're called a nigger, and then you're called you're called a fag by everybody else. So it's kind of like it's a double whammy. So in what he's doing, there's definitely a chance for his message to be misconstrued and actually missed over completely. And that's kind of what happens. People kind of miss the whole message when they get emotionally offended, and that's how anybody is. We're all
Let
like
me
that. So yeah.
I want to pivot to Ben, but let me just follow up with Chris. Chris, do you have any problem at all with the fact that Dave Chappelle feels that he can leverage the political will of a whole race of people at that moment in his comedy and kind of, I don't want to, if I'm wrong, correct me, kind of make it this kind of black community, LGBTQ kind of binary kind of thing. That's one of the things that I found kind of problematic is that he feel that like what I have a problem with what I call racial ventriloquism is that
Hmm.
the chosen Negro who gets to speak for everyone else. I tend to think
Yeah.
that paradigm doesn't work for black people ever, no matter who it is or how
Mm.
good they may be
Facts.
as the ventriloquist. And I was just wondering,
Facts.
do you think, and if you disagree, I mean, I have to respect it. Do you think there might be a problem with him feeling that he can kind of be the leverager of collective black political angst
Well,
in his comedy at that moment?
Well, from what I can say, I can't say that he feels that way. So I don't want to say that that's how he feels because we don't know. He might not really feel that way, but at the same time, I think it's more of a responsibility thing because there's a lot of people that do feel the same way as Dave Chappelle, and there's a lot of people who don't. I think the thing is he has the largest voice of the people that feel that way. So when he does say it, it does give them that validation and that kind of like, okay, see, we're not crazy. We're not, and I think what happens is nuance. People have no idea. People only deal in extremes for some reason. So the extremists are definitely going to jump on that and say that, he speaks for all of us. But I don't know if that's how he feels. Me personally, I don't knowing Dave, I don't think he feels he's speaking for all of us. I feel like he's literally speaking for himself. But it does come off. It can come off as he's speaking for all of us when he juxtaposes it like that in the way that he's done in this special.
Because there is a quote from the special, right? And you contextualize this because I'm open to your perspective here because you know the brother, you're friends with him. One of the last lines in the special, he says, and I'm quoting directly, LGBTQ community, stop punching down on my people. Now, when he says my people, who do you think he's talking about? Now, I know a lot of black people think he's talking about black people, but he could be talking about black comedians, entertainers, just comedians.
I think in context, it really seems like he means comedians.
But
you think he means comedians?
I think he definitely means comedians because the whole special.
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
I wouldn't say
the whole special.
I definitely think.
Let Ben finish. Go ahead, Ben.
I was just gonna say, I think that in context, the reason that I think that he's talking about comedians is two things. One, that he's talking throughout the special about entertainers who he thinks of various kinds, who he thinks were like unfairly attacked, or judged too harshly because of things that they've said about these issues. Like that's the big context. And then like 2 minutes before he said that line, "Stop punching down on my people," he was talking about his trans friend who killed herself, and he said, her tribe wasn't being trans. Her tribe was my tribe, which is comedians, which he just said that a couple minutes ago. So that's the reason that I think that. Now, I will also say what Pascal is talking about. And I think one big thing here is that I think it does matter that this is a comedy special, that this is not an editorial. He's not just saying like, here's exactly what I think. Here's exactly what I think. He's definitely using it to explore what he really thinks, like explore his mixed feelings about this stuff. But that doesn't, like if you took everything literally, it would just be a weird jumble, right? Like he said, one minute he says I'm on Team TERF, the other minute he says trans women are women, like there's a lot of stuff that just directly contradicts itself that he says, which if you're reading it like an editorial doesn't make sense. But if you see it as he's using comedy to try to like work through all of his feelings about this stuff, then I think it starts to make a little bit more sense. And I think that it is true, right? What Pascal's talking about, the racial ventriloquism, like I get it, right? Because definitely, at least, the man has told a lot of jokes over the years where that's been the premise, right? I mean, this Chappelle show.
Yeah, I mean, no one has a problem with it when it's a racial premise. Everybody loved the black Klansman that opened the.
Or like I mean, there was literally a sketch about the racial drafts where where representatives of races were drafting people onto
where he did a character of Tiger Woods with big teeth and
and it's what's interesting to me is that for some reason people have projected onto guys like Dave Chappelle that he is more than a comic. And if you've followed his career, I don't know why the guy that did Half Baked all of a sudden is a voice of social commentary for a people and a nation. I mean, there's things that he did in the Chappelle show that I thought like kind of resonated. One of the first times I heard someone talk about healthcare for all was on the Chappelle show. I think in his first or second season, he made a joke about that.
That's what did it. That's kind of what did it was the Chappelle. Because like, here's the thing. If we think about images and how people's images change throughout their careers, for instance, when Ice Cube came out, when we were kids, Ice Cube was a gangster rapper.
For sure.
He was talking about shooting niggas and doing all kinds of crazy shit. My kids know Ice Cube as an actor. Yeah. They only know Ice Cube from Are We There Yet? They only know Ice Cube from Silver Screen. So when you think of someone like Dave Chappelle, yeah, he did Half Baked, but then he did this show called The Chappelle Show, which was probably one of the most revolutionary, game-changing shows in the industry. Because if you notice, after that, every show tried to be like Chappelle's show.